Hello everyone, this is Gaston from Easy Software Developer, and I'm here to talk to you guys about JavaScript functions. So first and foremost, what are JavaScript functions? Functions in general are pieces of code that you encapsulate, also you put in one specific block so that you can reuse it multiple times. So let's say you have a function that calculates the conversion between two currencies, so from the euro to the dollar, and you're using that conversion in multiple places. So instead of having to write the code to do the conversion many times over and over again everywhere where you need it, you could just create a function and then call that function with the parameters you would like, so the values of euros, the values of dollars, and then that conversion would happen inside the function. So today we're going to look at the different ways of defining a function, how can you use higher order functions, and just a little bit of tips and tricks here and there. But enough talking, let's jump into the code. So here we are on the code, and first things first, I would like to say that I really enjoy coding in a bright white screen. I know I'm in the minority and most programmers like to dark mode everything, but I really like my editor to be light. So first things first, the first way to define a function, which is the most classical way, you just call it function, and I'll define a function called double that will receive a number, and it will simply return you the doubled number. So this is the most basic way that you can write a function. And here you have the keyword function. Double is the name of the function. Number is the parameter, so whichever things you would like to pass to the function for it to use. And then at the end you have number 2. So a way to call this function would be to simply do double, then we pass in a number 4. And this means that if you were to at any point change the implementation of how you double a number, maybe you want to add a bit more or you want to do something extra in there, you wouldn't have to change every single place where you call the double. So if we do like this, and then we call it 5 here, and then we call it 6. If let's say we want to, after multiplying, add a +1, we only have to do it here and we don't have to do it everywhere where we use it. Node functions.js. So here we have 9, 11, and 13, just like here. So we have 4 times 2, and then +1, same here, 5 times 2, +1, 6 times 2, +1. A different way to define this function would be to first define a variable and then define the function. So we could do something like this, just like that, and let's try and call it again. There we go. And here what we're saying is that the double variable has an anonymous function inside of it, and when we call the double variable with parentheses, it executes this anonymous function. An anonymous function is nothing more than a function with no name. So this function is just function and then receives parameters, and that's it. This means that the function is anonymous because it has no name. So in order for us to call it, we need to give it a name, which is the double. Another way of defining a function is with arrow functions. So this is one way of defining it. And if we run the code again, we see that it's the same thing. But since we have just the one line here, one cool thing that we can do with arrow functions is completely get rid of the parentheses. Just like this. And that's it. This is exactly the same as the function that we just deleted, as the function that we created at first. This is exactly the same. It's just a variable called double is equal to an anonymous function that receives one parameter called number, and then this one parameter is multiplied by 2, and then the result is added one to it. We add one to the result. And since we only have one line of code, we don't have to say return, and we can just put it after the arrow and it will return whichever value is here. And if we run this, you see that the result is exactly the same. So now that we are already talking about arrow functions, let's talk about something really cool that JavaScript does: higher order functions. Higher order functions is just a fancy name for, functions that receive other functions, or functions that return functions. I'm not gonna go into functions that return functions, but if you would like to understand more about it, just let me know and I can explain it to you. But simply, when you hear higher order functions in programming, it's just a function that takes a function into as a parameter. So I know programmers like to make things sound very complicated, more complicated than they should, but in this case I will simplify it for you. So let's start by creating just a regular function. So we have a, b, and the operation, and this function is going to run whichever operation you pass to it on these two numbers. How would this work? So in here, we will just say, we will assume that operation is a function, and this function takes a comma b, and this will actually return the operation plus the number 42. So this operation can be sum, can be divide, can be anything you want, and then whatever comes out of this operation, it will be 42 will be added. We'll use this in this simple way. So we just call operate, and then we call the first one with the number 2, let's say, second one also with the number 2, and then comma. And now we want our operation. Here we would say, we see that here we are calling the operation with a and b. So we need to define another function here called sum. And this function takes in a, takes in b, and then it returns a plus b. That's all this function does. This means that we can now replace all of this with just sum, and that's all we need. One thing you might be asking is, hey Gaston, why are you not passing the 2 and the other 2 over to the sum function? Remember, I don't need to pass it, because if we come here to operate, this operate function expects a, which is 2, expects b, which is 2, expects an operation function, which is sum. And then inside here, it will call that sum, and it will pass my a and my b. You see? So I don't need to pass it. I just pass the function that it's supposed to call, and it gets called inside the other function. Just like that, we get the same result. And those are higher order functions. So thank you very much, guys. So that's in a nutshell how functions work. And if you have any more questions, just leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, which is also at Easy Software Developer. I post there every single day, so you will definitely find me if you have any programming questions. And if you like this video, don't forget to like the video. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.